Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 109. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, special edition of the podcast. Glad you guys are here with us for this Sunday, Dave. The 2021 NFL Draft is in the books. A marathon day yesterday. On day 3, the Steelers made, how many selections? 6? Yeah, 6 selections, right? And we have a lot to talk about today.
Absolutely, we do. We have a lot of film to watch.
That too.
Hope everybody enjoyed the draft coverage, 2021 Steelers Depot draft coverage. I thought the guys and really in Dr. Mel's case, the girl too, did a fantastic job leading all up to this. Couldn't be prouder of all the work, and now the real work begins, I guess. We got to start diving a little bit deeper into some of these prospects that we don't know, too much about there. I tried to get into some of them a little bit last night. I know you did too. So I doubt we're going to be handing out firm draft grades today, but we certainly do have a lot to talk about today.
We do. Mel Kiper, though, handing out his draft grade, not to put the cart before the horse here, a C+, the lowest grade he gave out to any team for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Mel Kiper, not a fan of this draft haul.
I understand why they do it, the instant, the hot take reaction and all like that. They come running. We write about it. Everybody writes about it. Look at what this guy thinks about our team. He loved it. Oh, yeah, great. Oh, he hated it. Oh, he must be a hater. Those kind of things. I don't see how you can go. How many total selections were there? 200 and something.
59.
259 total selections. Nobody knows that much right after the draft about on instant recall about that many players and their fits within organizations and all like that. It's part of the process, just like mock drafting is part of the process. But here we are, you and I, we've got 9 new Steelers here, and I've got a firm grasp of maybe about 4 or 5, 4.5 of them, let's say. There's so much to learn about these players in the next 48 to 72 hours, I think. After that, then, okay, after you decipher it all, then you look back and all like that, then, okay, maybe start giving grades and all like that. But this part of the process, once again, I understand why they do it, but it's, look, I can't even grade this thing yet. I don't know about you.
Mm-hmm. No, I think we wanted to learn more about these players and kind of sit on it for a day or two and certainly review and before we start to firmly judge this draft class. And obviously the adage is you really can't draft or grade a draft class until 3 years from now. So we know that whatever grade or feeling we have now will be moot once the season begins and, we're a year or two into this class.
Absolutely.
But let's dive right in, Dave, because we have a lot of players to discuss, starting off in round 4 with the Steelers' first selection at number 128. They stick with offensive lineman. They go with Dan Moore, the offensive tackle out of Texas A&M. I thought there was interest in the other A&M tackle, Carson Green, who actually I believe went undrafted. They go with Moore, who's a big, long, athletic lineman that has experience at both tackle spots.
Absolutely, and I think that's that last little bit that you keyed on there. I think probably was played a big part in this. Played both predominantly a left tackle, I believe, at Texas A&M. I do believe, however, in 2017 he played a little bit of right tackle. But this is a guy, this is a kid that's 6'0", 5'5", 311 pounds. Nice arm length, I think, 34.5-inch arms, 10 and 1/8 1/8 inch hands there. Not going to have a problem getting any lobsters when he goes out to dinner. The explosion numbers could probably be, I don't know, maybe a tad bit better. But once again, I haven't watched a ton of him. I did pull all of the Texas A&M tape from the last season at least, so we should be able to power through that in the next 48 hours pretty good, because we got a couple of Texas A&M kids to talk about here. Love his character. If you watched the post-draft post-selection interview with him, made it a point to repeat back the person who was asking the question's name, and really sounded really personable. Just a good character overall there. But we knew that they were probably going to come out of this draft with a tackle. I'm not sure how many times we might have mentioned Dan Moore through the process. Probably not many, if any, times at all. As you mentioned, probably the other one, Green, there was the one that we talked about there. But certainly an understandable pick, and I look forward to getting a little bit deeper into his tape. I know he come out of high school, I think, as a guard, but really had no problem transitioning to tackle.
Yeah, he says he began his Texas A&M career at guard, but then kicked out to tackle. There were some draft nicks in the pre-draft process that thought he would move to guard, but Adrian Clem said he's going to be a tackle, at least start a tackle for his NFL career in Pittsburgh. And he's a guy that, well, I think there's still some work to do with him in terms of maybe getting a little bit stronger. He's still a bit of a leaner type frame. Clem loved his experience, over 30 games, I think 36 in total at the SEC competition level, and believes that he can be in the mix right away. Our report on Dan Moore Jr., because we did have one in the pre-draft process, said good athlete who has a massive wingspan, quick active hands, but did ding him for not consistently packing his punch when making initial contact, and his anchor and pass protection needs work. So again, goes back to some of the strength that he's going to need. So I think kind of a toolsy guy right now is Dan Moore. I don't know if he's 100% a finished product. I mean, again, there is a lot of experience here, so he's not completely raw. But I think a guy that probably has a better chance to be seriously in the mix next year as opposed to this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to throw them all in the blender and let them compete, obviously. But, I mean, Zach Banner's, it's hard to imagine Zach Banner not being your right tackle, from where we stand right now. And as Mike Tomlin did say ahead of the draft, and things can obviously change. Chukwuma Okorafor, left tackle, but you obviously let this thing play out. Not a lot of you had brought in Joe Haig during free agency, and here's to hope we never have to see that, especially over on at the left tackle spot there. So. I'm with you. This is a guy that I think you try to bring along as quickly as possible. Once again, you let him compete, but more than likely probably has depending on what happens with Haig and all like that, probably a good chance that a guy like Dan Moore starts off the regular season on the inactive list.
Yeah, just depending on how this whole thing ends up looking come September, but that's probably the most likely thing right now. But overall, he was a day 3 guy. Some people could argue it's a little too early for him, but I think once you get into day 3, then as long as it's not extreme, then I think that I'm not going to worry about the value of it as much. Although one guy we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes, I do have an issue with the value on. But more, again, the focus was that tackle in a deep class. I thought 4th round would be the area they would take a tackle. I mocked them Tommy Doyle. They obviously went with Dan Moore Jr., but the focus on offensive linemen. And so, again, another thing on Moore was that he was billed as someone who could function maybe best in the zone blocking scheme. You heard the same about Kendrick Green. So, again, I wonder, are they going to be doing more zone stuff than they have in seasons past? And at least the hiring of Chris Morgan and the drafting of Kendrick Green and Dan Moore Jr. seem to at least indicate that to some degree.
Right, and you're not necessarily talking outside zone, right?
I don't know. Maybe maybe we see some of that. I'm not going to put a box on what this new scheme could be.
Right. Well, they definitely have some guys that can move, but they definitely have some guys that can move forward, out into some zones. So We'll have to see, but I mean, look, they got to do something a little bit different. You just can't run split zone, split inside zone, duo, and power, right? Now they have obviously run to some degree some inside zone. In these past years, everybody does it. Once again, the big jump, the big change here when it comes to schemes and blocking schemes for the Steelers would be a considerable increase in traditional outside zone.
Yeah, and even maybe a heavier emphasis on inside zone. They do it a decent amount, but maybe we see that more often and less guards pulling. I mean, I don't know, obviously. We don't know exactly how things are going to look under Clem and Chris Morgan, but just based on the tea leaves of it, I think we see some tweaks because they probably want to just totally rebuild and revamp not only the personnel but the schematics of it as well, because schematically there were as many run blocking issues as there were personnel talent issues last season.
The good news when it comes to the new running back in Najee Harris is the fact that he played in several kind of really different pro schemes at the Alabama level. There are Sarkisian, who is the Bills OC that was there, Dayball.
Oh, yeah.
And who else was there? Jeez. I mean, it's like he had 3 or 4 different coordinators by the time he was there, and they were pretty much all predominantly pro schemes to a major degree there. And I think that's one of the things that Najee talked about in the pre-draft process. Look, I've played in so many different schemes here, and kind of pro-generated type schemes at that I have a firm understanding that, he even talked about during the pre-draft process that, teams were showing him stuff and he was having to diagram out, really didn't have to put a lot of time in studying a lot of it because he had already kind of seen that kind of stuff before. So whatever the Steelers do come up with, to match scheme, play design, with personnel, the good news is Najee's probably seen it and dabbled in it already.
Yeah, absolutely. So just some thoughts there running through my head with those selections. So again, Moore's a guy I think probably both of us need to study some more. I know my focus again was more on the right tackle there, Carson Green. I know assistant coach Chris Morgan was at Texas A&M's Pro Day to check those guys out. And he played in 2020. And so that ends up being a pretty common theme here of this draft class, top to bottom, of guys that played in Power 5 conferences and also played in 2020.
Somewhere in our podcast, I mentioned somewhere along the lines, I expected them to stay kind of closer to, the bigger schools, so to speak. And they pretty much did that,
exclusively did that.
Senior and when they didn't go, and this wasn't a surprise, when they didn't go underclassmen, they stuck to the All-Star game circuit as well too. Now Moore, I'm trying to look back. He was Senior Bowl, yeah.
Yep.
I know there was one that I didn't have listed as a combine invite, I don't believe, but he ended up being an East-West Shrine game as well, too. Maybe it was Loudermilk, I think. But, man, you go back after the fact, after you have all these picks laid down, right? And you can look back at them. And you start seeing some of those, connectable dots here, especially this year, as you just pointed out, these, some common things played in 2020, power, big school type kids here. College All-Star game has always been, an easy link. Senior Bowl specifically, you just did not know because of the East-West Shrine game week, being, just an honor to be invited. That obviously didn't happen this past year, but obviously in the past you can draw links to the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine game generally with these kids as well too. There, so what has stuck out? You probably watched a little bit more than I have. I mean, he is an athletic. A more athletic guy. The hand usage to me is what stuck out initially.
Yeah, I've been watching more of his teammate Buddy Johnson. We'll talk about in a second. So I don't have maybe as complete of an answer on Dan Moore Jr. quite yet, but I think just a guy with a here's what I like about Dan Moore, and just from a baseline resume level. He's 6'5", 310, 34.5-inch arms, 36 career starts against SEC competition, tested as a good athlete, has no major medical or character concerns. So when you have that framework for a tackle, he's big, he's long, he's got great experience, he's played against really good competition, and he's clean off the field, I think that is a good place to put this. Now, I don't know in terms of comps. I mean, I've kind of had, it's going to sound negative, but it's not like a Tony Hills kind of thing running in my head right now. But again, minus the medical of it, because he'll have the drop foot issue. But just again, when you have the baseline foundation of an athletic, big, long, good competition tackle, and you get him in the 4th round, I think that's a good place to start an NFL career.
Yeah, that's an interesting comp that you have. Boy, you've about sent me back in time there, but interesting comp.
Yeah, that's just a very loose comp to Hills. I know obviously he didn't really have a successful NFL career, but just kind of was billed as a, slimmer-ish build, athletic guy out of Texas. So that's kind of where my head went to when I first saw the pick.
Looking back real quick at his RAS score from MathBomb on Twitter, not bad at all. 8.98 RAS score. Got a little bit of yellow scattered in there with the green, which obviously the more green you want to see, the better. Now, really, where some of the yellow comes in is just the height and weight mostly kind of thing there. The 40-yard dash probably could have been a little bit better, as could the 10-yard split there. But overall, if you look at his athletic profile, not bad at all. And I think you hit on a good point there. You have a nice look. We don't know what he's going to develop into over time. Probably not going to start the season as a starter here, but in general frame work here, you have a nice prospect to work with.
Yeah,
and we'll see what the tape says here.
Sure, but again, I think an overall just baseline profile is a good place to start with Dan Moore Jr. So that was the Steelers' first pick on day 3 and their first selection in the 4th round. The Steelers' next 4th round pick was staying with Texas A&M. So they stayed in College Station for their 4th round there with Buddy Johnson, the linebacker, the off-ball linebacker out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, you get a guy that, this is a guy that I think at some point we might have mentioned 1 or 2 times during the podcast here. Checks a lot of boxes, the old check the box kind of thing when it comes good down the hill linebacker with some athleticism on top of it. SEC battle tested. You want to talk about a guy that's going to come in? Danny Smith had a nice day, didn't he? Or a nice draft overall. Because I think he's got several people are going to be able to help him on special teams. I believe Buddy had somewhere in the tune of 550 special team snaps. And I'm not sure how many of those probably came in, last season, as a starter and all, or last few seasons there. But I thought Jerry Olszewski did a great. How entertaining is Jerry Olszewski these days here? Could you see Jerry potentially? He is a little bit older though, but maybe not necessarily head coach, but definitely defensive coordinator.
Sure. I think there's a couple guys who could fit that bill on this staff. Jerry O and Carl Dunbar, to me, would make great DCs for Pittsburgh or maybe another organization.
When you look at measurables overall, maybe a tad bit light. I don't know, maybe what his playing weight was versus what he showed up at the pro day. Some of these kids will lose 6, 7, 8 pounds, in the process versus what they played at there, though. But one of the things that sticks out, at least in his profile from a height weight standpoint, 229, just maybe a tad, a little bit on the light side there, but. You want to talk about another experienced guy. The Steelers had a lot of tape to work with when it came to him. 47 total games played. I believe 32 starts. I think he started 23 of the last 23 games at Texas A&M as well too. I didn't see this overall, but didn't he lead the? I think Jerry O was asked this yesterday. He led the SEC in tackles last year?
I don't know that for a fact. I think he had 85, so he's probably right up there, if not having the outright lead.
Right. Jerry O said, "Look, I don't care about that. The thing that I like best about what Jerry O had to say about him is the 3 games that he watched him play. He saw enough in there that he saw the ability to tackle. The ability to shed in there. The other interesting aspect that Jerry O brought up was this is a guy that when he's doing things, he's attacking the line of scrimmage. He says those kind of things you just can't teach when guys are coming forward. Guys willing to play downhill, willing to work off of blockers and all like that. And I'm interested to go back and watch this full game. I haven't yet. I'll be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone when I do. He evidently held up pretty good against Najee Harris and against Alabama, especially in covering Najee out of the backfield there. So I think in Buddy Johnson, you have a guy that potentially can be a 3-down linebacker for you. And how key is that, especially in the middle rounds of a draft, to find a guy that fits what you look for organizationally. This is a guy I believe that wore a green dot. And Jerry O says, well, you can never have too many of those guys that know where people are supposed to be lined up at. The old Keith Butler miscommunication. If I don't hear Keith Butler talk about miscommunication in more than just a few times in 2021, that'll be a great day or a great season there. Played in kind of he should be fluent in what the Steelers probably like to do defensively here. This is a guy that will cut his teeth first and foremost. I sound like Chris Collinsworth. This is a guy.
Slide in.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the Collinsworth slide here. Going to obviously cut his teeth on special teams first, and he should be very, very good in that phase of the game. And depending on how quickly he picks things up, you could have the guy starting next to Devin Bush here, maybe as late as this his rookie season, or by his second season.
It's so funny. We did 262 draft profiles this year, and 262 was Buddy Johnson. I didn't even know we were doing it. I had said we were done after 261, and then Tyler, who wrote the report, messaged me and said, hey, I got one more coming. I got Buddy Johnson. Do you want me to send it? And I said, yeah, send Buddy Johnson, sure. And so I'm glad we did, and I'm glad he did, because it was the last report we did. And he's got a clip in there, the first one on the profile of Buddy Johnson from 2017. He went down a kick and lighten up the UCLA kick returner, and so that's going to be his path to start. He's definitely going to be special teams. I think he'd be very accomplished, strong special teams kind of guy, given the experience in the 1-2. There's not going to be a transition about having to learn how to play special teams, at a baseline level. He already has that. Now, he's a good athlete. He tested really well. The RAS score, I think, was 9 point something. I don't know if that quite translates on tape, and I believe that was one concern in Tyler's report. I watched a little bit of Buddy Johnson last night, and I didn't see necessarily the athlete, the way that he quite tested with the 4.58 40 and the 38.5 vertical and the 10.8 broad. I see some explosiveness, but I don't know if I quite see some of the open field speed and just that exact testing. I don't know if it quite matches up with the tape.
Yeah, and I haven't gone deep on him. Yeah, how did we miss him? We obviously didn't miss him because he's the last profile in. But how did? I guess the question is, I was. We missed it. We didn't have a couple profiles here. You had to turn them around real quick, and I understand that's going to happen at sometimes. But I guess overall is how did we miss not talking about Buddy Johnson more during the pre-draft process?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I think there's just a lot of guys to discuss, and it's hard to get to every single person, especially with some of these day 3 candidates. He felt like he was a little undersized. I don't think it's too different from even Vince Williams or Devin Bush, but the size wasn't great, and usually we just focus on some other guys. We talked a lot about Derek Barnes and guys like that, so it's just hard to discuss everybody. But he's a name that we should have probably mentioned more than we did.
Yeah, especially when you die, one of these after the fact things. You start. Wasn't he a captain there at Texas A&M?
Yeah, he was a captain, a leader, a really good glue guy. And so you talk about some of the intangible things, the green dot, the communication, things like that. He was one of the leaders on that Texas A&M team.
I think this troubles me that we kind of didn't talk about him more, I guess, overall. I'm learning I learned some valuable lessons, I think, this time along, too. I think what we need to do is start. Now, look, during the pre-draft, once we get the combine back in full order again and get to learn a little bit more about these guys in general network talk during the combine, maybe that'll help more. But I'm going to start adding definite columns to these sheets that we start doing during the pre-draft process here of, was he a captain? What was his listed play weight versus combine pro day weight, because I know sometimes I have, when trying to go through who am I going to watch next, that whole phase, who am I going to watch next that kind of best profiles what the Steelers look for. Make no mistake, we do 250 profiles for the site, but a good bulk of them are with the idea of these guys could potentially be Steelers, correct?
Sure, there's always, a good handful of guys that we feel like have really good chances to be Steelers, and I know for me, I didn't have Buddy Johnson in that camp this year.
Right, and I mean, I saw him. I never took a. I'm trying to give the listeners here kind of a peek into how we do things and how even we miss at times of maybe identifying ideal candidates.
Yeah, but I mean, we're outsiders. We don't have the big board. We don't know medical and character, and we don't know some of the intangible stuff. And we try to look at. That's why we used to use the pro day tracker. I mean, we try to use that as our most valuable tool. And obviously, Jerry was not at his pro day or anything. It was just, I believe, Chris Morgan. So, you can't hit every single guy, especially in a year like this that was so odd. And again, not having the combine, I think, was detrimental to identifying some of these names early in the process.
All right, what's one of the key things that sticks out with him? He's like he kind of plays old school like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I watched his tape, and again, I had to go through tape more on these guys, himself included, I think he was very patient against the run. He played inside out. He didn't over-pursue, took really good angles to the football. Overall had the ability to make some big plays. I watched him against what team did I watch him against last night? It was, I believe, it was against Florida, and he had a forced fumble about 3 minutes left in that game that I believe Texas A&M went on to recover. So he made some big plays in key moments. But just overall, him playing the run, staying square most of the time, taking on blocks, ability to get off of blocks. But I think just a lot of patience in terms of playing inside out against the run and not over pursuing. To me, is one of the more impressive things that have stuck out so far in my tape watch of him.
In the little bit that I've watched of him since the selection, and obviously through the profile that Tyler did, and just a quick kind of highlight runner, you don't really see a lot of that sideline to sideline burst, right?
I see initial explosion. Sometimes he struggles to close. In that Florida game alone, he almost made the tackle like 4 or 5 times, including one that resulted in a short touchdown. So I think that the closing speed is not always quite there, and it doesn't always match up with the way that he tested. And when you don't have you don't have a big frame, you're not a big, long dude, you don't have a lot of strength necessarily at 230 pounds, you struggle to finish some of those plays unless you can really get there and get home early and make the tackle. But I think there's some physical limitations that are going to lead to him being just almost there on some of these tackles out on the perimeter.
I can't wait to see these 4 sacks of his, or actually at 2020, I think I've seen 1. And I really look forward to the last 2 seasons has 18 TFLs. So I'm interested. Have you seen any of those TFLs? Can share any insight on?
Outside of the Florida game, I mean, nothing coming to mind, but I think that speaks to the downhill nature that Olszewski was talking about when you have 4 sacks. And in Pittsburgh, off-ball linebackers are pass rushers too. They're blitzers, and they scheme them up as well as any team in football. And so I think his pass rush ability, at least assuming so based off of 4 sacks, is something that'll be pretty valuable in Pittsburgh if he gets on the field defensively.
That's something both you and I be able to talk a little bit more fluently on by the end of next week, I have a feeling.
Right, yeah. That's maybe the other issue with the format of this is because we're so rapid fire and turning on these podcasts, there's no chance to breathe for a second and look at some of these guys here. So later in the week, we can probably discuss it a little bit better than where we're at right now.
And we always like to be up in front and honest of what we have and haven't watched. We're not going to hot take it from what someone else writes and it be wrong. I mean, like the rest of everybody else, we try to read up instantly on the things that out there from the people that we trust. And obviously we have Tyler Wise and his profile to go off of, but there's nothing like setting your set of eyes on 5 games,
Right.
Especially over the course of the last 2 seasons. If you can get 2 from 2019 and maybe 3 more for 2020, that we should have a good idea on who he is. And like I said, I pulled the 2020 Texas A&M games, so that will be part of. I got a lot of Texas A&M games to watch these next 48 hours.
Yeah, that's going to be your new Oklahoma State. Watching all these.
You're probably right. You're right.
Let me just read the conclusion of Tyler's report that he wrote again pre-draft. Quote: He has all the tools, he says, quote, he has the tools, but he'll have to clean up some of his technique and mental processing before he can be a legitimate contributor for an NFL defense. He is a prime prospect for an NFL special teamer, and that's where he'll have to shine if he wants to play in the NFL before cleaning up the rest of his game. And so, yeah, he's not going to start, obviously, right away. You're pretty solid inside linebacker. You bring back Vince Williams. You have Robert Spillane, you Marcus Allen. His first really full season at inside linebacker, and UG3, if that back stays healthy, has always been an intriguing prospect. But going to give yourself really good depth there with Buddy Johnson.
In short, I think Jerry O said a lot of those same things there. When he talked to me there, we talked about the potential going into this thing of this team drafting an inside linebacker, and now that they have. What does this do for Vince Williams?
It's a really crowded room. I haven't really mapped things out quite yet in terms of who's on the inside looking out and vice versa. Obviously, Spillane's going to make it. Devin Bush is going to make it. I think from there it gets a little open-ended. I don't know if there's another lock on the roster besides those 2 guys. I think you'll have a really good battle overall. I still go with the assumption Vince is going to be your starter. I mean, I don't think he's going to – Buddy Johnson's obviously not going to play over Vince Williams defensively, but that gets into the question of just special teams value and things like that.
Who's the most outside looking in? UG3 right now?
Of that whole group? Yeah, I'd probably
Marcus
say
Allen?
UG3 is a really good player, just from the back issue. I mean, if he's healthy, he can play on special teams and he can cover, and there's a lot of tools there that are really impressive that got him drafted. So I'm not sure. I think it'll be a really good battle in camp, and they'll try to carry as many of those guys as they can. At
most, going to keep 5 though, right? Buddy's going to be one of those 5. Devin Bush is obviously going to be one of those 5. I bet dollars to donuts. Robert Spillane's going to be one of those guys, assuming all these guys are healthy. So that's 3 right there. I think that's where the question mark starts right there, right after those 3.
So if you keep 5, you got 3 guys left: Vince, Allen, and UG3 for 2 spots.
Okay.
So that's kind of the math of how this thing's gonna look right now. Again, someone could go to the practice squad theoretically. I mean, Allen was on the practice squad for a while to start his career. UG3 could still, I guess, get sent back down there if he loses out or whatever the case is. So we'll see. But a question for a couple months from now.
Well, this is a unit, too, that had went through so much trial and tribulation last year, right? I mean, you lost Bush, obviously, in week 6. You lost Spillane, middle of the season to a knee injury. You lost Vince to the COVID for a couple of weeks. What else?
UG3 with the back.
UG3. You had a guy coming in, being moved from safety to the inside linebacker position in Marcus Allen.
For Williamson, you're trying to get him on the fly.
Right. It'd be nice to not have to have all those trials and tribulations with that position group, right?
It would, although 4th-round pick Buddy Johnson is playing a lot of snaps. There's probably going to be some trials and tribulations with that as well.
You're right.
But, so I need to watch more on him. I don't know if I'd come away immediately loving this pick from a positional need standpoint or from his tape standpoint, but I certainly want to watch more on Buddy Johnson. I think he can become, at least at the starter, a quality special teams guy.
I see it from look, we talked about, I don't know where you'd rank it up there on the needs, but we both thought that this team had a good chance of going to draft an inside linebacker. We were pretty convinced that they weren't going to maybe draft one in the first 3 rounds, I guess, but or at least the first couple of rounds there.
Well, I was wondering if it would take them out of the mid-round consideration when you brought back Vince. It wouldn't stop you from taking an elite top-level guy, but I wondered if the middle-of-the-road guy was going to be out of the equation. But obviously, that was not the case.
I thought the opposite. I thought Vince coming back meant. I mean, it is what it is. You got to. If you could upgrade the position, especially for down the road, I could definitely see them doing it. In fact, I mean, I had Baron Browning slap in the middle of my mock drafts for both of them there. So I thought there was a possibility that they might do it. I just didn't identify Buddy Johnson as being a high probability guy of being that guy, I guess.
I just hope when I go through more of his tape, I see some of the testing, some of that 4.58 and the 38.5 vert and some of those really strong testing numbers. If I see that, I'll be more comfortable with the pick. If I don't, I'll feel a little more down on the idea.
All right, gig him. All right, on we go.
All right, so we thought there was going to be a long wait there from pick 140 to 216. You kind of kick back, relax, scroll on Twitter a little bit. And I had the draft I was watching on ESPN muted for a minute because I was listening to something or whatever the case was. And I just happened to look up, and I see the pick is in for Pittsburgh at 156. And I went, what in the world is going on here? So the Steelers trade up with Miami, moved to 156 to give up a 2022 fourth-round pick, so nothing they should have give up a future fourth to move up to 156 to take Isaiahh Loudermilk, the defensive lineman out of Wisconsin. And I didn't feel too good about this one initially, Dave. When I first saw the news of the pick here, I'm obviously watching more on him, and we're learning more about Isaiahh Loudermilk. But this one was a curveball. I'll put it that way.
Not so fast, my friend. We needed some Lee Corso in there, didn't we? Never saw it coming. Never saw the trade up coming. Never saw the prospect really either in there. Now I will say this once again: once we get after the fact here, and you start looking back at how things transpired in Dunbar, and I think this goes back to the selection of Loudermilk goes all the way back to kind of what we talked about early in this process. Where are the 6'6", 295-pound 4i 5-tech guys at? Because there's not a lot of them, right?
Right, and Marvin Wilson, who was one of those guys, I think had a medical issue that caused him to fall out of the draft entirely. So he was kind of probably off the board for Pittsburgh, which already made a thin list even smaller. And
then we had, who was the small, Milton
Williams.
Milton Williams was another kid that we had kind of identified if they went that route. But overall, I don't know. Maybe you'll explain and remark to me. I kind of think that I know which way you're going. Stuck in 2013, I thought was the DM that you sent me.
2004.
2004. Was that? Yeah. Is that it? Man, you can circle the height, weight guys that they look for, right? I mean, you can and really kind of a lot of times they like the guys with the more athleticism, possibly. Loudermilk is height, weight.
Don't say speed.
No, yeah. not speed. He is a height, weight system. Yeah. Classic. If you gave an artist rendition of what a Steelers defensive end, 4i 5-tech defensive end would look like in 2003, they would draw Loudermilk.
Although his length is not that great for being 6'6". It's 32.5-inch arms, I believe, which is short for a guy of that height.
The only thing that really sticks out, and another thing that probably got past is if you look at his pro day listed weight. First thing I looked at, boy, he's gonna have to get a couple of pizzas in him real quick. But evidently he dropped a little bit of weight as a pre-draft process, not surprisingly, to work on the speed, yada yada 40. He might as well just kept the weight on.
Well, I'm scared how he would have tested at 290 with the way he tested at 274 because the testing numbers weren't great. And so it was a weird discussion because then there was the report he's going to play outside linebacker in Pittsburgh, which made it seem like even worse because it's not.
Yeah, Jerry do like botch that up bad.
Yeah. it just because you never can tell. Are these speculations? Are these opinions? You never know with some of these beat guys. And I like Jerry's work overall, but that one was really strange, and he actually deleted the tweet. This guy, and the Steelers confirmed that he is going to be a defensive lineman. He's going to be anything from a 0 tech to a 5 tech, according to Carl Dunbar, which is his home. He's not going to play standing up, obviously on his feet. So he is your very classic 3-4 end in a class that was pretty scarce of those type of body types. That can play up and down the line and just be that classic Wisconsin tough dude defensive lineman.
The scarcity of this type of player is what forced the trade up. Yes? Yes,
100%. But the question is, did you need that kind of guy right now? I didn't think you did.
If they
had to trade up for him.
If they what did they give up? A 4th rounder in 2022. They expect to have a compensatory, obviously later, than that. That's what they gave up. Did they need it? Did they need to trade up though? Is a very, very good question, because you've got a lot of these guys on the roster right now. Obviously, you got Cam Hayward, you got Stephon Tuitt, you got Tyson Alu back, you have Abdul Anderson, you have Wormley back. Did you need another guy in there? Now, make no mistake about it. I obviously haven't watched a lot of film on him. I don't think you're going to have Isaiahh Loudermilk over, playing a lot of 0-1 technique.
No,
I guess it could, but I mean,
yeah, just in the sense of you play some of these over fronts and stuff like that. I mean, these guys move up and down the line in today's NFL, so it's not that you're necessarily like saying you're going to be our base nose tackle, but the defensive line assignments are fluid. They're up and down the line. They base on offensive formations and things like that. So he's a guy that has played up and down the line, which is valuable, obviously.
Right, but predominantly this is a guy that you hope is to make your roster. As more of a 4-5,
and 3 tech,
and 3 tech in sub package, there. But I can't wait to dive into his 7.5 sacks. I haven't seen those yet. He does have 11.5 tackles. You do have an experienced guy here that's played a lot of snaps, though, I think, overall during his time at Wisconsin. I mean, he was at Wisconsin. He was a freshman when T.J. Watt was there.
Yeah.
So there is that. I have seen, and now I can't speak to it. I'll just pass along the hearsay here, which is dangerous to do. Kind of questions about the hot and cold motor with him. I think does he play every play? There. But I was surprised by this pick.
Yeah, and I do want to say some good things about Isaiahh Loudermilk. I think that Colbert's comments about the scarcity of guys that look like him and have played in the system that he did is very accurate. There were not many guys. And I remember whenever we would talk about that, we would mention Marvin Wilson and guys like that, and I would always just throw out there and also Isaiahh Loudermilk because, the name is kind of funny.
Did you? Okay. Good for you.
Yeah, I remember I've said that a couple times. Not that I was
good
like, we're going to take this guy, but I just remember mentioning that he had one of those body types, although, again, the length is below average for his height. He's been really well coached. I mean, the Wisconsin defensive guy, you're going to get some really good coaching. Jim Leonard's a great DC, one of my favorite DCs in college football. And actually, his defensive line coach, who's with Vanderbilt now, his name is Enoke Brechterfield. And he was the D tackles coach at Pitt and coached Aaron Donald. And so this guy's got some really good coaching, and that he's going to be good from a technical standpoint, from an NFL defense standpoint. And Tomlin talked about how kind of easy that evaluation is because Wisconsin's defense is so similar to Pittsburgh. So I get the allure from that standpoint. The question was, though, was this guy worth a 5th-round pick and worth trading up for? And I thought he was going to be someone that would probably be more towards the free agent side of things. Now, maybe they had a different opinion because of that scarcity and they felt like someone was going to snag him. But, what is the upside here with Isaiahh Loudermilk? Now, he's a 5th-round pick, so I understand, he's not like we're expecting him to be a 2nd-round pick or something like that. But I think at best you're seeing rotational kind of base dude as a backup. And so that ceiling's already pretty limited to start in a best-case scenario, which has me worried because athletically he is pretty limited. And although he does kind of throw that classic 3-4 end, the definition of what the Steelers need from a 3-4 end these days are a lot different. They want pass rushers, they want athletes, guys who can really get after the quarterback. And Loudermilk's game is not that.
Missed some time in the first couple of years in 17 and 18 with some knee injuries, I think, there on top of it. So he's got the knee injury history. Might be, I don't know for sure, might be the oldest draft pick the Steelers had this year too, right?
How old is he? 23?
20. He's closing in on 24. He's at least 23 and a half, I think. I think that's what I put down here.
Yeah, then that probably makes him the oldest pick.
Right. So, once again, we'll talk more about him once we dive into his tape. I have all the Wisconsin games from the last 2 seasons, so it's not like we won't be. I'm looking at age right here, real quick. Yeah, he's the. I don't have Pressley Harvin's birth date. I apologize for that. Shame on me. But of the other draft picks, he is the oldest that the Steelers have this year.
Okay.
23, yeah. Let's see, 23.55 right now.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's tremendous upside there with him. I don't really think there is. I think he can become a run stuffer, versatile up and down the line kind of dude. But, man, to trade up for that kind of guy, I mean, if this was 2003, great. But in 2021, it just feels – and I watched some of his tape last night, and, I mean, the dude, I think is actually fine. He uses his length well to try to bat down passes, and he's strong at the point of attack. But, I mean, I just think he's such a limited athlete in today's NFL where even defensive linemen have to be good pass rushers unless you're just a classic zero-tech, plugger against the run at nose tackle, which he's not. I just don't know what is the best-case scenario for Isaiahh Loudermilk in his NFL career.
This is definitely a measurable pick.
Yeah, it's a measurable scarcity kind of thing where they just wanted to get that guy. But again, did you need to have that guy right now? It's not. If you had lost Chris Wormley and something like that, and then sure, maybe that conversation changes a bit. But you brought Wormley back. You have some young guys there in Monroe and Bugs. I know Bugs has been super hot and cold. So you had some competition there, but I don't even know right now if this guy makes the team. Now he's a 5th-round pick, so a 5th-round pick not making the team isn't a killer, but you trade up for him. You kind of think like that's a guy you really want and think can make your team and make an impact pretty quickly. And I don't know if he's even in that camp right now. And you would hope too. I mean, because of the scarcity of the body type and all, if he winds up not making your team, you're gonna lose him to the process, and him land elsewhere or something like that on top of it. So it was really, really curious of a trade up. And so, I mean, I understand why, because of the scarcity. It was a body move. I mean, it was a measurable move, plain and simple. Yeah, that's what the Steelers basically said. This one felt questionable. To say the least. I didn't see it coming, man, and props for you, and bad on me for not paying a little bit more closer attention to not hearing you mention Loudermilk before. But I mean, it was just casually. It was just It was a throwaway comment, really. And it's honestly someone I thought that they could pursue as an undrafted guy. And so again, maybe my evaluation of him was wrong for the reasons Colbert mentioned about just not many guys that look like him and had that ability, but I just didn't think the talent warranted trading up and even B taking him in the 5th round. All right, let's move on. All right, so with the Steelers' regularly scheduled programmed picks in round number 6, they finally go with an edge rusher, and I think get really good value here. Maybe my favorite day 3 pick from a value standpoint with Quincy Roche, the edge out of the U, had spent 1 year at Miami after transferring from Temple as a grad student, and just really strong production athletically. And from a size standpoint, he's average to a little below average. But from a production kind of technique standpoint, that's where Quincy Roche is going to shine. Absolutely, and this might end up being, for post day 1 favorite, or post first 2 rounds or what have you, as far as favorite picks. This one probably by the time the dust settles might end up being one of the favorites here. Quincy Roche, 6'0", 245, as you mentioned, came out of the Temple product the first three years there. Was a graduate transfer, I think, to Miami there. Put up. Here's the thing: it's hard to find a lot of that
2019 Temple tape. Against some of those teams there. I have. Did I lose you?
I'm still here.
Okay, I heard a beep there. I found all the 4.5 sacks from Miami last year. I really would like to see the other 26. 13 at Temple in 2019, another 13 over the previous 2 years, 2017, 2018. There, from a value standpoint and from what the Steelers normally look for when it comes to these outside linebacker tweeners, if you will, he fits it. He really does fit it. And why wasn't he mocked more to the Steelers, maybe later? Because I think a lot of people really thought Quincy Roche to be off the board 3rd, 4th round. Why he ended up falling to when he did, who knows there? It might be more of a size overall, maybe athleticism. Probably didn't test great overall, and those kind of things. But here's the thing: it's one of those things where you have to watch the tape with him, because if you look at the raw numbers, he plays better than his tested numbers, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the heavy level of production represents that. And he goes to Miami, maybe a step up in competition, still has a really strong season in 2020 with 14.5 tackles for loss. The sack numbers were down a bit, but I think the scheme was a little less reliant on him being a pure pass rusher. And they got a first-round talent there in Jalen Phillips. So his number one goal was not necessarily to always get after the quarterback. So I think he fell because of the reasons you mentioned. When you don't have a guy with great size or athleticism, I think some teams view that as he's maxed out. Maybe his NFL career won't be as good as his college career. But I think from a technical standpoint and a 6th-round value for a team that desperately needs some edge help, I think this is a really strong pick.
Absolutely. Look, they needed an edge, didn't they? I mean, there was no way that you could come out of this draft without and I'm not just talking about the next Anthony Chickalo either. They needed somebody that maybe as early as his rookie season can give you some snaps out on the edge, because Cassius Marsh, just bless his heart, he help you on special teams, but that's just not it. Not a guy that you'd look forward to maybe playing 10 or 12 snaps a game to give those guys like Watt and Highsmith the breather there. So I don't want to go as far. I mean, I've got to get deeper into how he plays against the run and stuff like that. I'll tell you this: he from the initial look at his pass rushing tape, when it comes to Roche, he seems to have plans. When it comes to that, and I think he's got. I like his hand usage. I think I even saw a ghost move in there or two in there. I like how he sets up the inside move. He's quick enough off the edge to be able to beat some people around the edge. But I like his hand usage, and I like that it looks like he has a pass rushing plan. And once again, I don't want to say this is the steal of the draft here for the Steelers or anything like that. We'll dig deeper into the tape, but this very well might be the Steelers' steal of the draft.
Yeah, I think it's really good value, and you're right. It doesn't surprise me to hear about his plan, because when you're not the biggest dude or the most athletic guy, you have to win in other ways, and you're going to win with technique and plan and hand usage and all those kind of in-trenches battles type things. So, you don't get 30.5 sacks in your career by accident, and that probably means that, even though he's not overwhelming you with size or burst or athletic ability, he's going to win with just good technique, and that's kind of what he said his game was all about.
And the Steelers like having that production back there to look at, too, and maybe not the best production last year with Miami. Some of those sacks, I think there's like 3 half sacks in there of that group. So if you were to look at his sack profile just from 2020, from we love to talk about quality of sacks these days and all like that. Probably not going to be floored on that. That's why I said I'm really interested in maybe trying to looking back and try to find these other, from the 2 previous seasons there, especially 2019, to see the quality of those sacks there. Once again, if you go back to what the Steelers look for, they love production, man. And, he might not have had a ton of it last season at Miami, but he sure had a ton of it at Temple there. Height, weight, speed, maybe not necessarily speed when it comes to him, at least on tested measurables there. But he definitely fits that. He played a lot on his feet in college. That's obviously a plus. So we're not looking at a Jason Worlds here, right? Or a Lamar Woodley, where you're having to deal with a guy that has to view the game from a whole different vantage point because he didn't view the game that way in college there. So I think that's a plus with him. And I think you get him out there and you get him to run a little bit on special teams out of shoot as well, too.
Sure, but hopefully he can contribute sooner than later because they need a number 3 right now, and it's still a little unclear who that guy may be. I think Roche and Marshall are obviously the top 2 guys right now. Maybe they bring in somebody else, who knows, but I think Roche was good value. And not that I'm calling and taking a victory lap here, because I'm not, because I didn't have him really super on the radar, but I did have Roche to Pittsburgh in my final Steelers, or my final 7-round mock draft for the entire league that came out on day 1 of the draft, and he checked every box in what they look for study except for his 3-cone, which dings like 95% of these guys. So from a measurable standpoint, he checks almost every single box.
So you're not surprised to see him wind up a Pittsburgh Steeler, maybe just a round?
No, yeah, I was surprised to get him there to see him there in the 6th round, and pleasantly surprised, obviously, for him to fall a little bit. And then again, another leadership guy. I think he wore the single-digit numbers at Temple in Miami, and apparently even had a big leadership influence at Miami, which is tough to do for a one-year guy with all the COVID-ness. It's hard to be maybe as close to guys as it could have been in normal times. So, again, Heart Smarts, I think, describes Quincy Roche, and also now a Steelers fan after living in Ravens country and being a Ravens fan. Actually, his mentor growing up was Ed Reed. He found Ed Reed someday at a football camp or something, and they stayed in close contact, and was kind of taught about how to be professional and how to carry yourselves by Ed Reed, funny enough. And so that actually probably, Ed Reed in a sense has helped the Steelers today.
Temple tough,
yeah, for sure. He wore the single digit there, and that's been worn by some really good guys. Rocky Sin had a single digit. Matt Ioannidis, with a great D tackle for Washington, was a single digit guy at Temple, and the key wore number 9. So, those are the impressive things about Roche that might not pop on tape, but are certainly very valuable to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
If you got any Temple tape, send it to me, please, from 2019 full games.
Hat in hand, Dave Bryant looking for Temple tape. But yeah, Roche I thought was probably the best value pick on day 3.
I'll find it. It's just going to take, and I hope to have at least maybe, like I said, I've already got all the sacks from 2020. I'm going to look real hard and heavy because one of my first articles coming out of shoot is going to be to contextualize a good portion of Roche's snaps or sacks. I said or mean, and the sooner I can find those, the better. So gonna have to try to scour the internet here real quick for those.
7th round pick, the Steelers' first 7th rounder at 245. They take corner Tre Norwood out of Oklahoma, and we kind of had a feeling 7th round pick was going to be corner with the way that Keith Butler was talking about it. It was nice to see Keith Butler. I haven't seen that guy in like 4 months. Like, you're still here, good to know. And he was talking about, he said quote literally, because he was describing the.
He gave it away.
Yeah, he said quote, we still need a corner, and I was like, well. 7th round, not a great time to need something, but kind of felt like a corner was coming, and it was with Norwood. Now, he's a versatile guy. He's played a lot of safety. He's played outside. He's played slot, so he's not just a cornerback. And honestly, his home might be better at safety than it will be at cornerback, but versatility and someone with good production, and also played in 2020. All things that are important to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see what happens here, right? Because not another real sparky guy overall, I don't think. And is he a guy that you say, okay, let's see what you can do in the slot, and then if not, back to center field you go?
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe there's a hope he can be a little versatile and wear multiple hats, and that's a lot on a 7th round pick. But the more hats you can wear, the more value you're going to have, and the better your odds are sticking with the team will be. There are needs both at free safety depth and at slot corner depth right now, assuming that Sutton's going to play inside and sub packages to start the season. So I think the goal is maybe Norwood can kind of be. I mean, Tomlin, when he announced the pick, literally called him Swiss Army knife utility back. So I think their vision is to not have him play just one spot.
I mean, can this be? Can we? And they drafted one last year in Brooks out of Maryland. There, you get a sense that we got going to get a lot of dimebacker kind of stuff here to help alleviate the loss of Mike Hilton.
Well, I mean, it depends on who's all ready for that job. I think you need to play some dime this year. I don't know exactly who that guy is. It's probably going to be Antoine Brooks right now, but I think that's dependent on just his development and how Norwood looks once they get him into camp. I don't know, how much you can really expect those things right now.
Not super twitchy from and this is another one that I'm going to have to really, really dive into because I just saw the basically the highlights on him throughout the process here. Did have some production though. I think 23 total tackles last season, 5 INTs, and one of those I believe he picked off Trask and took it the other way on there.
Yeah, that was the bowl game.
Right. So I just don't know enough about him to know where the Steelers are going to try to fit him in at.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a jack of all trades thing. I think slot corner, free safety is probably going to be the areas where he'll play predominantly. I mean, he could probably play on the outside a little bit, but really not a big of an urgency to do that here with the Steelers. So I think slot corner, free safety is going to be the thought there with him. It was similar to the idea of Ardarius Washington that I had mocked in my mock draft, but Norwood's bigger, and so they wanted some bigger size there. And someone who ran a little bit faster as well. Norwood had a faster 40 than Washington.
Yeah, probably not the best guy against the run from at least a little bit that I've seen. I look forward to diving deeper into the Oklahoma tape there as well too. So just another one that kind of caught me off guard as far as really not having him penciled in really as a prime Steelers candidate. And some people say, probably a good chance he would have went undrafted, but you get that late, you get what you get anyway, there. And they definitely needed to address the corner / safety, and maybe you got one of each in there in him, a guy that can move around quite a bit there. It'd be interesting to see if they try to prime him to see if they give him a legitimate shot to work in the slot there initially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the intent was to get someone who could, at least on paper, try to address both those needs with one pick. Now, will he do it? 7th round pick, let's see if he just makes the team first. But I think that was the idea behind him, was to find someone with a lot of versatility.
All right. Was he a captain or no?
I don't believe so.
I don't think he
was.
Don't
quote me on that, but I don't believe so. But no seemingly character or anything like that. So Steelers very, very squeaky clean with the draft class, which is common in their draft classes. All right, Dave, with the final pick in the 2021 NFL Draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 254, they took
fullback.
A fullback, a linebacker, a chunky punter, and Pressley Harvin III. And I will do my victory lap here because I had this one in my mock draft. And I think you deserve credit as well, Dave, because you've been talking about drafting a punter for a long time now. You had a punter in your mock draft as well with Pressley Harvin III, the big 5'11", 263-pound punter coming to Pittsburgh.
I told you, dating all the way back to late last season, they're going to draft them a punter. They had to draft them a punter, I think. If you want to make sure you get, if you don't guarantee the post, the undrafted free agent money like the Steelers don't do, if you want a specialist to come in and compete, you're going to have to draft one, plain and simple. Now, if we're talking about the Steelers, where you can definitely know that you can guarantee some money after the fact there. But yeah, I really, really think they like them, and this probably was punter number one on their board.
He was the only punter drafted, so I assume that he was.
Right. So and you go all the way back to halfway, or really, This was like day 3 of the pro day circuit or something, wasn't it? When Danny Smith, when we spotted Danny Smith at the Georgia Tech pro day in the rain, walking up the Georgia Tech hills both ways in the rain, to work out Harvin there. Strong leg, man. Strong leg and big-legged, I think is what Kevin Colbert told him. So I was none too surprised that the Steelers drafted a punter. It only just came down to which one of the three were they going to draft, I think, was the biggest question.
Yeah, and Harvin reportedly had a really good workout despite some of those poor weather conditions, which I'm sure really endeared himself well to Pittsburgh because, as I mentioned in my mock draft, if you're going to punt in Pittsburgh, you got to punt in bad weather once it comes time to do so in November and December with the wind and the rain and the snow and things like that. So that's important. I know that the interest in him is the size and some of the funny stuff with that, and I joke along with it as well. But let's talk about him as a punter himself. This is the Ray Guy Award winner in 2020. This was the best punter in college football. And so, it's not just getting a good story here. You're getting a really good punter. He's got a quick operation. He's got really good hands. He catches the ball cleanly. He flashes some elite punts. There was one against Clemson, I believe this past year, that was 54 yards, no return, pinned to the corner, 4.83 seconds of hang time, just flashes some really elite punts. He's been a holder. He's got experience there, which is important. He's been productive. He's gotten better. He can throw the football on fakes, which is really interesting. Had a 41-yard touchdown pass in his college career, and just a really productive guy overall. Now, he is inconsistent, and I don't know if I would have necessarily drafted him because of that inconsistency, but I understand why they did because the potential there, I think, is really, really impressive with Pressley Harvin III.
You need to get some legitimate competition in there for a guy like Jordan Berry. Now, how will this play out? We'll see. The Steelers spent a 6th-round draft pick on a long snapper a couple years ago, and he got snapped right out of Pittsburgh just not too long after that. So no guarantees in this, but I don't see how anybody couldn't see this coming. I really don't. You go back to Colquitt and that mess. Look, they went back to Berry because they had to, because Colquitt didn't work out. I mean, the fact that they were willing to move on from Berry in the manner that they did in lieu of an elder like they did shows you that that's a huge need there. And the fact that they did not really sign anybody. Obviously they have Waitman still on the roster as well too, and the fact that
for now,
right. In fact, that could be one of the two that go out the door here, couldn't it?
Yeah, that would not surprise me.
All right, so the fact that he couldn't push for that job at any point last year, that tells you a lot there as well too. So. Will Harvin end up being the Steelers punter here? We'll see, but you had to give yourself a chance by drafting one, and I know a lot of people will take issue with it. We'll just sign one off the street, whatever. I get that side of it, but you know me, I was not surprised to see this team draft a punter with their last pick.
Yeah, neither was I, and we might have been the only site with a player profile on Pressley Harvin III. I'm glad I did all those punter profiles.
I am too. Look, I mean, that's part of it. I think we both had a pretty good feeling that could happen. So now, are we going to have punter profiles next year? We'll see. But
depending on how well Harvin punts.
Right.
If he can improve that consistency, he's going to beat out Berry. He's going to make the team. He's going to be your guy. If he can't improve that consistency, then I think you're kind of back to square one. But if he can put it together, this guy's flashed some really elite punts.
End of story.
And just that weight, I want him to get that weight down a little bit. He played 283 at Georgia Tech this year, and he slimmed down to 263 for his pro day. So I think losing more weight probably is going to be the path for him.
All right. We'll see if Marcel can get a hold of him.
Yeah, get him on a good plane. Just from a conditioning, flexibility standpoint, obviously it hasn't affected him too much, but I think you don't got to be 263 to punt in the NFL. Let's get the weight down to 250. Maybe it's probably the range for him.
Here we go, fat shaming punters.
All right, Dave.
If people don't know, Alex weighs like 128. Yeah. I think, soaking wet.
Like a third of a Pressley Harvin.
You're Harvin's
I'm Pressley Harvin one
leg.
Yeah. He's the third. Yeah. Anyway, so he's the punter. I'm very happy to see him there in Pittsburgh. It's just a really cool story, and I'm just happy that I got it right. I'll be a little narcissistic about it, but that is the Steelers draft class.
How many you got? You got Najee. You got Harvin. Anybody else you hit?
I got a Freiermuth. I'm kicking myself. I almost went with Freiermuth. He was my others considered. But in terms of guys that I actually mocked, I got 2 this year, which is good because I put up a goose egg last year, so I had to redeem myself a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think I hit anything, did I?
Right, because you didn't go. You went Dickerson in round 1, so
Right.
I think you have the goose egg this year.
My next to last mocks continue to be my best, I think, or really my first ones. I'm gonna look at my considered list here and give myself credit for any consider. I had Najee considered. I had Freiermuth considered. Trying to think anybody else that I had in here that was on my considered list. Nope. I did have Pressley Harvin, so I had 3 on my considered list of my final mocks that ended up being drafted. That's I need to do more better.
Yeah, that's for your NPR show, Others Considered, with Dave Bryan.
There you go. Part 4.
Anyway, so with the Steelers, the draft did not end after the final pick there. How about Mr. Irrelevant, our boy Grant Stewart?
I was glad to see that. If anybody does, not that you obviously would wish somebody got drafted higher, yada yada. But for the notoriety alone that's going to come along with Grant Stewart and for his cause with the what's the name of the organization?
Halos.
Right, Heels to Halos program and all like that. So glad to see that because he's going to be able to get the word out about that organization and all like that just because of him being Mr. Irrelevant. And look, I mean, you land on a team that knows the value of special teamers. Who knows? Maybe he makes the cut with them. So good for him.
Yeah, I wonder if he gets the whole trip and pomp and circumstances in these COVID times because you're supposed to get a whole week for yourself. So I don't know if that's still happening, but I hope it does for him.
I hope it does too. Once again, you wish guys would get drafted earlier and all like that. But if this ends up with him being able to have a better platform for his message. Have at it, man, because it really was inspiring to listen to him talk during his pro day interview.
It was. So good luck to him. He's with Tampa Bay now, so I believe he's with the Bucks. All right, Dave. So Steelers had free agents or undrafted free agents signing, and that furious time there, just that chaotic, 2 hours or so about who's going to sign and who's going where. And the Steelers announced their undrafted class late last night of 8 guys. And I'll admit, this is a really impressive class on paper, at least. Much better than I thought it would be, much better than some of these previous classes. Some of the notable names of the 8 include Shakur Brown, the corner out of Michigan State, Rico Bussey, the receiver out of Hawaii, Mark Gilbert, the corner out of Duke, Lamont Wade, the safety out of Penn State. So it felt like the Steelers took a look at their depth chart after the final pick there, Pressley Harvin III, and went, we should have drafted some more DBs, guys. Let's go sign every single defensive back we can find because what is it? I believe 6 of the 8 undrafted guys were corners or safeties.
Boy, they need it, right? They need maybe a guy like Brown. I don't know. They're going to have to find them. They're going to have to rummage through these kids and find somebody that can play in the slot, I think.
Yeah, Brown's going to be the best candidate to do that. It's actually 5 of the 8 were defensive backs. Now, he was a guy that I had in my next to last mock draft in like the 4th round for Pittsburgh. Now, he didn't run well at his pro day. He ran, I think, a 4.64 at 185, 190 pounds. So that pushes him out of the draft just being small and slow. But he picked off 5 passes this year, and so there was some playmaking ability with Shakur Brown. And he got a fairly healthy signing bonus in terms of what the Steelers offer with $25,000. So that's a signal they really wanted to try to get this guy.
Bundage is definitely a unique. Played some, I think, off the ball and played some on the edge there, didn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty skinny, but he had 7.5 sacks this past season for Oklahoma State, which is pretty impressive there. So that's a guy that's a good athlete, some versatility, and that's maybe a name to watch as well.
Tell me about Jamar Watson from what you know.
Yeah, that was the guy that Josh Carney is doing his victory lap on. He had actually that was 261 in our profile, so that's it's funny to get some of these elite guys right under the wire to come to Pittsburgh. He's someone that had good production at Kentucky, but just some awful pro day testing. I forget exactly what his times were, but they were terrible, and I think that definitely pushed him out of the draft. So that's a guy that hopefully has to play better than the poor numbers he put up at his pro day workout.
All right, best shot to make the 53 has to be Brown out of that group.
I would say Brown. I would also say Mark Gilbert out of Duke. And I didn't know this, but I think Brian Batko tweeted it. He's the cousin of Darrelle Revis and has some ties to Pittsburgh. And this is a guy that in 2017 had a really good season for Duke, 6 interceptions, but just had a lot of injuries since then. Only played 4 games the last 2 seasons, but he's long. I think he tested pretty well at his pro day workout. And obviously there's some talent and potential there. Injuries have just really done this guy in. But Mark Gilbert, one of the more, I think, interesting undrafted guys on this list.
And I think we got at least one kid that's going to be there as an invite guy, right?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull up the list here. This is Roland Rivers II out of Slippery Rock, so a local kid. I believe he won the Harlan Hill Award with the Rock.
Okay.
And someone had tweeted at me. I believe his name was John. So hat tip to John. Rivers was actually throwing to Pat Fryermuth at the Penn State Pro Day, and so they got to see Rivers down there at Penn State, and that probably helped put him on the radar as well.
All right. Do we know of anybody else coming in? Had they changed the rules on the quarterbacks? I mean, is Rivers is going to be it right now unless they've changed the rules as far as rookie minicamp, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, you probably would like another quarterback, but right. I mean, your camp isn't going to be 50-plus guys. It's going to be 25 to 30, I'm guessing. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, you could have a coach, Pastor probably play mock quarterback or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But some of these receivers they brought in, Bussy is a guy that a Hawaii guy that transferred from North Texas, had really good production. They were at his pro day. He worked out at San Jose State, and Chidi Iwoma was there for that, so they saw him there. And Isaiah McCoy, there's your MAC guy. Finally, no draft pick of a MAC guy this year, but McCoy, over 18 yards a catch this past season, ran 4.68 though at his pro day, so that's not a very good time there. But showed some downfield ability this past season with Kent State.
First time the Steelers haven't drafted a wide receiver overall since 2011, right?
Yeah, the post-A.B. Sanders draft class. So, yeah, a lot of trends being broken here. I mean, it was a very weirdly constructed draft. I'm not saying that in a negative way, just an unusual sense where they go 4 offenses start for the first time since, 84, the first time they've gone offense on their first 4 picks, and then 4 straight on defense, which they haven't done since, man, when was last I had the note there in my article. I have to pull it back up
83, 84?
Let me go ahead and just pull up so I have the right note.
Somebody said because I tweeted that out, and then somebody wanted me to pronounce one of those names.
Oh, right. First time since 95 they went 4 straight on defense at any point in the draft.
Okay, but what about first same position group to start a draft?
Yeah, that was 84 on offense, and that was the one guy that tight end with the name that, if you want to pronounce it, be my guest, but I will not make an attempt at it.
Right, let me see.
That was Louis Lips and Ouija Thompson
and Terry Long,
right,
and Chris Kolodziejski. How's that?
That's actually not bad.
Kolodziejski. I'm getting worse the more I try.
Should have stopped. Yeah, first time you were good.
Yeah,
you shouldn't have powered through that one. But there you go. So.
I know that name does not even ring a bell with me, man. Chris.
I don't think he played for them, or if he did, very little.
Tight end. Played football out of Wyoming. Second round pick, 52 overall, and really didn't do anything. I don't think.
Yeah, how many games did he even play?
7 games, 3 starts, 5 receptions, 59 yards for him in 1984.
That was a good class overall. Louis Lips and Ouija Thompson and Terry Long's a pretty good haul overall.
Kolodziejski. I'm gonna have to that's gonna bother me throughout the off season there. I'm gonna have to look that one up and maybe do a write up on that or something like that. All right. What other kind of trends?
Yeah, it was that weird offense defense. Not only did every single one of their 9 draft picks, every single one of their 8 undrafted free agents played in 2020. So the Steelers were not lying when they were talking about, it's very hard to sit out a season, whether that was opt out or school not playing, or whatever the reason was. So I know that Colbert said that would only come down in a matter of tiebreakers. seemed like there were a lot of ties on the Steelers board because all 17 of the new faces for Pittsburgh played this past season.
Okay.
So that was, I thought, very interesting there. And then just kind of the general leadership, a lot of leaders with Kendrick Green and Dan Moore and Buddy Johnson, Roche, and then the hearts and smarts with guys like Najee Harris and Freiermuth and Tre Norwood. So very much a classic Steelers draft class from that standpoint.
All right. What else? Any final thoughts on? We're probably going to do a podcast. I don't know. We're gonna have enough new info to do one Monday, or are we going to go back to? We going to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week, or what?
I haven't really thought that far ahead yet, to be honest. I need to, maybe just based on how much tape I get watched today, how much more I learn about these guys. But Monday or Tuesday, we'll do one for sure.
All right. Overarching thoughts?
Yeah, I need to probably watch some more before I start formulating some final thoughts. I mean, I was very happy to get Najee Harris in the first round. I think that was a good pick overall. I thought, again, Freiermuth, a good, not great pick. Was this a home run draft for the Steelers? No, I don't think so. Was it an awful draft? No, I don't think so. I think it's very much just an average draft across the board. You address some need. I think you get some good players, maybe not superstars or guys that are going to become the next TJ Watt or someone like that. So again, I don't have any like hard and fast thoughts on this class as a whole quite yet. I think it was very much a Steelers class, but I would probably call it an average draft haul.
It really feels like this thing is kind of anchored to what Najee can do right out of the chute, to be honest with you. And I think that's obvious. Yeah, I asked this in the 5 questions the other day. When you go back and you look over the annals of time, it's hard to believe Franco Harris still owns the rookie season rushing record, doesn't it? Or does it? Does that still sound kind of crazy or no?
I mean, how many yards did he have his rookie season? 72?
Back in 72, it was 1,055. And, obviously he didn't play the amount of games, right? Back then, would you have thought that number would have been beat by now by a Steelers rookie running back, 1,055 yards?
Yeah. Could somebody hit 1,100 yards? You would probably think so, but I'll tell you this: if someone's going to do it, I think Najee Harris in a 17-game season has a really good chance to break that record.
Well, that to me, I got to be honest with you. If he doesn't, I view it as a huge. I guess I'm getting it. You spend a first-round draft pick on a running back in today's fungible world, yada yada. Value, look at it however you want to. He damn sure better break 1,055 yards on the ground, or else you made a mistake.
I mean, if he plays all 17 games, it's averaging 62 yards a game. I mean, you better be able to do that, and I think he'll certainly have the opportunity to do that because he's going to be your guy from the word go.
I mean, I think the total yards from scrimmage for a rookie running back as well too. That's why I put the over under at 1,259.5 yards. If the Steelers want to be able to justify the selection of Najee Harris in the first round, he better set the new rookie season rushing record. He better shatter it. I mean, we're looking at 1,200, 1,300 yards, I think, on the ground for starters. And as far as over-under, as far as total yards from scrimmage as well, too, for him being a first-round back, he better have 1,400 yards at least, I think there. If he doesn't, I think you got to take a hard look and say, was it right to spend a first-round draft pick on a running back?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the tape and how he looks and what the circumstances are. But you would think 1,200 yards rushing, 50 receptions, something like that is kind of what I'm thinking he's capable of doing. Again, the opportunity is going to be there for him. He's going to be someone. Then, I'm sure to start the first depth chart they release in camp, he might not be the starter, and maybe he'll be the third guy in on that first day of training camp. But pretty soon, he's going to become the guy, and he'll have every opportunity to put up all the numbers that he can.
Look, barring knock on wood injury or something like that, I mean, this is your week 1 running back in the story. I mean, you're talking about a guy that better touch the ball 250 times, I think, at least at a minimum.
Right.
his rookie season. So you want an early measuring stick to see if Najee Harris was the right guy, along with success running rates and all like that. I mean, better be a new Harris. That's the new rookie season rushing record holder, and he better bust that total yards from scrimmage number as well too. Now back to kind of overarching thoughts on this. We came out of the first round there thinking, what they probably do, if they're able to get a center or whatnot, can really help. With what they do in rounds, maybe 2 or 3 can really help prop up, I think, make the first round pick look a little bit better here. Everybody knows the thoughts on Pat Freiermuth and all like that by now. I really think how Kendrick Green comes along and plays, will really help determine maybe if it was the right decision to go running back in the first round. I understand why they did it. I mean, nobody's going to question why they did it, as far as that. I mean, opportunity, value, blah, 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 to get the number one running back or who they had viewed as being that guy. Okay, I get that. But, what you do in that second or third round, especially with that big hole that you have on the offensive line, makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, you talk about setting over unders and asking those kind of questions for the season. How about the question of, will Kendrick Green be a week 1 starter, yes or no? I think it's a very good question to ask.
That's a great question to ask, and I think he will get every opportunity to do that. Sure. Here's the thing: what's the bar?
It's beating out B.J. Finney.
And what is the bar?
I mean, I think for Green, it's just it's not a high bar. I know what you're getting at there, but it's not like Green is not going to be handed the job. I mean, they brought in Finney; right. He's going to know the system, he's going to know the team. I know it's a new coaching staff and stuff like that, but he's the veteran guy. So there are going to be some of those advantages that Finney obviously has over Green, just knowing overall just kind of how things work in the NFL. So I don't know if Green's going to start or not. I mean, if I had to guess today, I'm going to guess yes, but I'm not confident in that, obviously.
I'm not as confident as I would have been back in 2010 when they drafted Marquise Pouncey, and because of who he was having to beat out and all like that, you thought there was maybe a decent chance that. But I'll put you this way: I would be disappointed as a fan if he is not the week 1 starter at center. How's that? The fan
doesn't answer
side
the
of
question. Yeah, that didn't answer the question. Will he start? I'll be disappointed if he doesn't start.
I'll say yes because I don't see how you. I don't.
It's a 3rd round pick. It's not. It's not. Pouncey's different. Pouncey's first round pick and much better. I mean, and Green could start, but it's not assured.
I'll say yes. I don't know why, but I'll say yes. But the fan side of me will really be upset if he's not. But
Ben might say, you're going to put a rookie under center for me to start this season? I don't know what you guys are talking about. As
he looks down at his first 3rd round center.
Right. Towers over him. You're going to put me under center Canada, and I got to play with a rookie? And we got to talk about this.
Carry Kendrick around on his shoulders.
Right.
So. What's the I so want to put Austin Powers line in there, but get in my bag.
Oh wow! Now who's fat shaming?
I know. Get in my belly, Kendrick. A little mini center. No, I shouldn't do that. He plays bigger than his size. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But
he's
we
a
have
muscly, fucked up dude.
We have a lot of tape to watch, Alex. So should we get to maybe a couple questions in here?
We should. Let's get to some emails and close out today's show.
Dent Burnett, that's a new name. Congratulations, Dave and Alex, everyone at Steelers Depot, on your terrific draft coverage this year. The information you provide makes the draft incredibly more interesting to follow. That's the goal, Dent. One quick question. Given the team's decision of not drafting a viable cornerback prospect, do you foresee the team acquiring an established cornerback prior to the start of the regular season? I have reservations about giving away a future draft pick when we need to build draft capital, potential move up in selecting a quarterback next April. Have a great summer, Bowhead. Let's see. P.S. Dave, hope your health is improving. Thanks for that. Look, I mean, all options I think have got to be on the table for you and this team when it comes to a cornerback, especially one that can specifically maybe help you in the slot. Does that mean acquiring one right before via a trade or whatnot? I mean, I think it's all on. I think it's all on the table right now.
I think it is too. Usually the way they do this is they go to camp with the group, and usually, 2-3 weeks in, they get to evaluate those guys and make a decision from there. When they traded for Vance, that was after the camp where the tight ends, I think Jesse was a rookie that year, and they just had struggled as a whole, and they kind of realized, okay, we need to bring someone from the outside in because this group isn't good enough as it stands. But listen, they've already traded away one 2022 draft pick. Are they going to give away another? I mean, I suppose that's possible. I know they're getting some comp picks, but I can't give away everything for future picks. So that's another reason why maybe trading up for Loudermilk was not the best idea, because that may limit you when it comes to August and trying to make a trade with a future pick. So it's possible. We'll see. They'll go into camp with this group and evaluate and go from there.
And look, we'll dive into Tre Norwood's tape quite considerably here over the next, definitely the next week to 2 weeks here. Be able to talk a little bit more fluently about him and what the prospects are with him. The same goes with Shakur Brown out of Michigan State as well there. But I think it's a fair question to ask. What's the plan at cornerback right now? And I think it's wide open as far as potentially adding some stuff, or adding a guy down the line there. I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I think I think Roche was a good value pick, and they got a lot of DBs as undrafted guys who are interesting. There were still questions about depth at those positions entering the draft. I think still those questions remain coming out of the draft, which is not an ideal spot to be in.
Let's see here. What else do we have? Let me get my computer to work here. Let's see, from Will Fernandez. Morning, Dave and Alex. I really missed the Heath Miller chants after his catches. I'm hoping that Steelers Nation embraces Pat Freiermuth, and perhaps we can start a Muth chant after his catches. I know it sounds silly, but it sure would be fun. Keep up the great work, fellas. Look, I mean, just the fact that I'd be interested to see how Freiermuth comes along in the passing game, especially down the field. That's one of the biggest questions I have about Freiermuth coming out of this draft, is how can he function in the passing game down the field more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. That's one of the biggest questions I have about him as we sit here today.
What's a good over-under on his rookie season reception total? 15, 20?
Oh, that's a good one.
If I gave you 15, would you take the over or the under? Or is that too easy?
I'd probably take the under still, to be honest with you.
Take the under. Yeah. I'd be right around that range. I don't know if I'd go exactly just over, just under, but I think 15 to 20 is probably going to be his range.
I mean, I don't know how, other than just being a plain out fan or whatnot, fanboy or whatnot. I don't know how you can go more than that.
Yeah, just again the weapons on this team and how difficult it is for rookie tight ends to make an immediate impact. I know that sounds low, and people are probably going to turn up their nose and say that's it. But I think honestly, they're
going to call us haters because of it.
I think Freiermuth was a good pick. I don't love the pick, but I like the pick. I think it was fine. I'm fine with it. But I think you have to temper expectations for rookie tight ends, especially when they're backups with all the weapons on this offense, and for a team that will hopefully throw the ball a little bit less in 2021.
Gary Thomas writes in his questions on the Steelers draft from a first-time Steeler fan from the UK. Well, Gary, thank you and welcome to the show. Hi, Alex and Dave. Just want to say how much I and all the fans have enjoyed your great 2021 draft coverage, the incredible work, and your team is putting out such in-depth and informative draft profiles of over 250 prospects. It really is the best place for fans, especially us diehard Steeler fans here in the UK, to get our daily fix and what is going on in Steeler Nation. Thank you for that. Question: off the back of this year's draft, do you see a future blueprint on how the Steelers are going to cope post-Big Ben. He's got some bullet points here. Our new quarterback won't need to be a gunslinger throwing the ball 50 to 60 times a game. They'll be able to hand the ball off to one of the best running backs in the league. Number 2, the additions of Green and Moore to Dotson last year, who can get to the second level and open up alleys for the run. And number 3, Steelers will be able to have a well-balanced offense that defenses will need to respect the run, which will open up our passing game. Gary from Steeler fan in Swansea, South Wales in the UK. We're popular in South Wales, UK, apparently.
Very cool. His question was in regards to a rookie quarterback for the future.
I guess, kind of the blueprints kind of being laid for a post Big Ben, maybe, whatever post Ben realm.
Yeah, I get that. I don't think that's done intentionally. I think regardless if you have the best quarterback in the world or a rookie, you want to have a good run game and balance and efficiency with run and pass. I don't think that it changes dramatically regardless of your quarterback, but it certainly will be a friendlier environment for a rookie quarterback if he comes in next season with a strong run game and a better offensive line and things like that. Absolutely. So, again, I don't believe that was the intent for the future. The intent was to improve the run game now because it needed to be improved now, even with Ben under center. But I think it certainly can have dividends for next season.
I concur. Jay Guilford writes in, David Knights just had some questions how you think Freiermuth compared to some of the other tight ends in past years. First, let's start with the obvious comparison of fellow former Nittany Lions, Jesse James and Mike Gesicki to Freiermuth. How would you compare and rank them coming out of Penn State? I don't remember doing a lot of work at Gesicki because of where he was at, where he was expected to go. Versus what the Steelers need. So I'm drawing a blank really of kind of pre-draft notions on when was he? That's been like 3 years ago, hasn't it?
Yeah, I want to say 2018.
Gesicki was 2018 in the second round. So I'm drawing a blank of really kind of my thoughts. I know I kind of viewed him obviously probably more as a receiving tight end than I did being a better blocking tight end. Maybe my memory's failing me there. Look, obviously with Jesse James, I think a lot of people have already heard. I consider Jesse James. Freiermuth a souped up Jesse James, plain and simple.
Yeah, I would rank them Gesicki, Freiermuth, and then James. I think Freiermuth squarely in the middle in that middle gap between Gesicki and Jesse James, closer to Gesicki, I guess, than James, but pretty much in the middle. Again, my comp for him was Hayden Hurst, Austin Hooper. That's my NFL comp of Pat Freiermuth.
He goes on to say, now for the more fun part, because I get to tug on Dave's heartstrings here. People love tugging on my heartstrings here. Same question, only this time let's open up the pool to Cole Kmet, Foster Monroe, Charlie Warner, compare and rank them to Freiermuth coming out of college. He says, don't worry, Dave, I won't bring up Kittle, even though I'd like to see him build a rocket like Dobbs can. Thanks as always for the tireless efforts, Steelers Depot, blah, blah, blah. Cole Kmet, I had Cole Kmet ranked a little bit lower, I think, than a round lower or two, I believe. Obviously, more of the receiver. I thought a lot more about him more as a receiver. You know what? It's probably kind of reversed when it comes to Cole Kmet and Freiermuth, because Cole Kmet better receiver, better down the field than he was a blocker, whereas Freiermuth's just kind of the opposite of it. As far as Foster Monroe, I really thought Foster was kind of underrated overall. I still kind of wonder if that's a guy that might end up on the Steelers roster somehow, If Las Vegas is ready to kick him to the curb or for whatever reason, that is a guy. And his other one, Charlie Warner, look, Warner, I knew right from the get-go was going to be a later round guy. I was not arguing that. I just kind of wonder if Charlie Warner was undervalued from the aspect. Look, Georgia does not use their tight ends in the passing game. If you're a kid and if you play tight end and you're choosing the college, why in the hell are you going to choose Georgia? Mm-hmm. They just don't use those guys in the passing game. Now, when they did, It wasn't bad, and I think even at the NFLPA All-Star game there, I think teams got it. I think Charlie Warner helped his stock at the NFLPA Bowl because he said, "Hey, this guy can catch." That guy was a star wide receiver coming out of high school, wasn't he?
You would remember better than I do, but that sounds familiar, yes.
And obviously a good blocker out on the edge. But I guess what he's wanting me to do is kind of rank these guys overall. It would probably be Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Foster Moreau, Charlie Warner. Although Charlie and Foster probably pretty close together there. Alex?
Yeah, I don't have a ranking. I think I've been kicking around this idea for a little bit, and maybe something for us to talk about later on this offseason. This is inside baseball, but I think we should come out with our report, some sort of grading system, so we can put an actual number on these guys to be able to make it easier to compare and contrast and really rank these guys beyond just a round projection. So that would be helpful for a situation like this. I think he's similar to Kmet. I don't know who I would put above the other. I think they're kind of in that same camp. Again, I just look at my NFL comp. That's all I care about right now is just who I think he'll be, and I think he can be a starting tight end in that shade of a Austin Hooper or Hayden Hurst, where you're not a top 5 tight end, but you're kind of in that top, 10 to 12 tight end in football.
I like Austin Hooper. I really do. Now, Hayden Hurst, I wasn't as big on overall, but
he was older coming out too. He was like 25 when he came out and still a first round pick. So I mean, that's just kind of where my head is at for an NFL comp for Pat Freiermuth.
All right, Zach Prosba writes in, thank both of you, entire team of Steelers Depot draft season, unlike any other for the site, truly best part for the site and team. I cannot wait for what comes next for the offseason. Boy, hold on to your hat because we got a lot of stuff coming before Alex is hopefully back at St. Vincent this July. Anyways, who are your vet guys on the roster who are most in danger following the draft? I rank them like this. Would love to know your thoughts. Bugs, he has number 1. Then he has number 2, Raider or Gentry. Number 3, Jalen Samuels. Number 4, Justin Lane. Number 5, J.C. Hassenauer. Look, I think Vince Williams belongs on some sort of list. I don't think he's number one fearing for his life right now. I think Isaiah Bugs definitely belongs on that on that list. I mean, Isaiah Bugs really belongs on that list if you ask me. I think Zach Gentry really belongs. Why does Radar belong on the list? I mean, this is a guy that was a fringe guy anyway, so I don't think putting Kevin Radar on any sort of in danger list is doing anything any justice. Jalen Samuels, I hope he's got a good realtor. Same with J.C. Hassenauer is another guy that probably would not have been. I don't know if it's fair to put J.C. Hassenauer on a list, I guess is what I'm saying. The other name that he has on here is Justin Lane, and I get it, especially on the heels of his recent arrest and all like that, but I don't think he's going to have the moving truck at his house anytime soon. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, nothing happened in the draft that changes those chances. Obviously, he has to play better. I think it's a really big summer for him, but it's not like they drafted a corner in the 3rd round or something like that. Norwood obviously not guaranteed to make the team as a 7th-round guy that maybe played more safety anyway. Yeah, I mean, we're stretching vet there a little bit. Kevin Rader with 1 career NFL game. I understand you're just saying not rookies, basically. I think Gentry's in trouble. I think Bugs has certainly got to come in and have a really good camp and keep his weight down and play consistently. I think that's been the big frustrating spot for this coaching staff, it appears. But I don't want to assume that Loudermilk is going to be guaranteed to make this team either, because 5th-round picks don't make the team all the time. And so I don't know if he will or not, but I think it'd be a really good battle there.
We didn't even mention Bugs, I don't think, when we ran down that group of defensive linemen. We talked, obviously, Hayward to it.
No, I mentioned all the young guys, okay. Monroe and Davis and Isaiah Bugs.
All right. I think Vince Williams belongs on a list. I don't think he belongs on the top of the list of a vet, but I've thought all along that especially if they draft a guy, an inside linebacker, I've thought that it puts Williams on the let's not make any guarantees list, especially at his salary and the fact that they didn't give him a signing bonus. I mean, Look, I'm glad he's back. No other person I'd rather have in the locker room than with him, but I don't think he's a lock to make the roster. We'll see what happens come or early September there. One more. Grant Kinney writes in, hello, Dave and Alex, 5+ year listener, second time emailer. I feel like you both have a really good sense of where the Steelers' heads are at for some of these draft picks. I know you and Alex do not like talking about guys they did not draft, but humor me. From the Steelers' draft room front office point of view, why was Pat Freiermuth the pick over Creed Humphrey? Also, why was Green the pick over Quinn Miners? Finally, why Buddy Johnson over a potential outside linebacker pass rusher? I know you both. I know both of you personal thoughts, but wondering if you had more insight into their thoughts. No, I mean, I wish we could give more insight into their thoughts of why this guy over that guy. I mean, Alex is probably the most dumbfounded of them all. Why not Creed Humphrey in the second?
Well, I mean, I didn't know if they were going to draft him. I just knew that he'd been a great fit, position of need. They were going to draft a center on day 2, so why not take, to me, the best center in this draft class? I think a lot of it is just simply grades. We talk about positions of need and stuff like that a lot, and I think for the Steelers standpoint, a lot of it is just getting good talent, which is your number one mission in every single draft class, even if it is in a position of extreme need. If you get just good guys that are going to be on your roster for a long time, that wins in the long run. And I think Keith Butler basically admitted as much when he was talking about, like, we need a corner, and we were probably going to take a corner, but other guys had higher grades, and so we went with other guys. And so that's Keith Butler, I think, saying the quiet part out loud there. In terms of why not Miners, again, I think the focus was very much obvious on guys who played in 2020, guys that they felt like they had the clearest, most comfortable evaluation of. So I think for any guy who didn't play in 2020, that really dinged them in the Steelers' eyes, and that probably takes a guy like Quinn Miners out of the possibility when you factor in the small school stuff and all that as well. So for that particular reason, I think that's the reason why they went with Kendrick Green over Quinn Miners.
Look, Quinn Miners became a media star, right? How much of that's media? I mean, look, once again, he's got good tape. I enjoy. I mean, one of my favorite guys to look at what tape you could find out there on him. I thought Senior Bowl really, became a rock star, if you will, at that time. Obviously, that workout video of his made it's easy to fall in love with these guys, right? Just from in your face. You didn't know about this guy. Now here he is. How can you not love this guy, right? I mean, that's what Quinn Miners is. He does have some nice tape. He did turn some heads at the Senior Bowl. Here's the only thing I can tell you, Grant, about Quinn Miners and why the Steelers, went another direction. A lot of it plays into what Alex had to say. This is a guy that was out of football, did not play other than the All-Star game in 2020. Kevin Colbert, in so many words, told us that was probably going to be the case, going to stay away from those guys. Another thing is okay, he has a small school kid strike against him. That's okay to have that strike against you, but at least show us something, give us something recent that we can go off of with him, right? And he didn't have.
You had that with the Senior Bowl,
right? But I mean, I'm talking game after game after game.
Sure. No, I get that. Yeah, again, all 17 of the new faces of the Pittsburgh Steelers played in 2020. That is not a coincidence. That is an intentional act. And so I think is the big reason there.
And the other thing here, I mean, let's make sure we drive the point home. This is a guy that only played, I mean, just like I like Robert Hainsey, and I thought, boy, you get too far down out of this thing, there becomes a point. I guess once you got past Kendrick Green, you were probably down to, we really need to think about drafting Robert Hainsey and moving him to center, But once again, you did not have, I mean, other than the Senior Bowl, that's all you got to see Robert Hainsey play at center. It looks like he might be a natural there. I'm not going to be surprised at all if he ends up being a 7-year guy or more at the center position in the NFL, but that's all you had to go on. All you had to go on at Quinn Miners at center was the Senior Bowl. End of story. And, I mean,
you had as much Senior Bowl tape on Hainsey as you did Miners. I mean, they had equal amount of center experience.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
That's your point. Okay.
Well, there was a point. What round did Hainsey go? Fourth?
No, he went like 6 picks after. He went, I think, 95 to Tampa. It went Green, and then like 3 picks later, it was Miners, and then right after that was Robert Haney.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, you're that just shows you the projection got that to me that shows you how non-deep this center class was.
Yeah, I think there was strength at the top, and then it kind of falls off kind of quickly after that. Now, Kendrick Green does not have a ton of experience at center either, but he certainly
at
has
least
more.
It's on tape.
Yeah, there is still probably 400 some snaps of him playing center, and so there is, I think, a more comfortable evaluation there with Kendrick Green at center than there would be at Robert Hainsey or Quinn Miners.
And this goes back to what I've said the last couple of shows here. Is I'm not buying that the center. And it's almost like every other year, to be honest with you, when it comes to the center position, you got the top 3 or 4 guys, and then I just didn't see it as being as deep as Kevin Colbert was trying to sell it. Now the tackle class, a different story. I definitely deeper, and I think he told the truth there. Man, do you think they win it? Do you really think they went into this thinking, boy, if we can get Kendrick Green in the 3rd round? Do you think that would, I mean, how many scenarios do you think that was talked about where they went, you know what, this is really could be potentially a target? I mean, I suppose it was, right?
I mean, they could have picked any center but Dickerson at 55, and they didn't. So, yeah, I kind of felt like they were comfortable with at least that path. It wasn't like there was this big run on centers that went right ahead of them. They wanted to take a guy at 55. They had their pick of everybody but one. They could have taken Dickerson at 24, and it would have made sense as well. So I think they were comfortable with the path they took.
We've talked about this several times over the years, and especially after drafts, and I can't help but thinking this every time. And at some point, man, I hope I live long enough where we can have Kevin Colbert post Steelers, post NFL career come in and talk about some of this. I almost want, I understand they have 100, 125 probably players on a draft board, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But I really wonder if that list is like 50. You know what I'm saying? There's like 50 guys that we really, really, really want to draft. I would go as far as maybe that list is dwindled down from there. But I wonder if he carries around in his back pocket the Colbert 50. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they have a short list and guys that they really want to target. I don't know exactly how big their board is, but sure, they have probably a list of 50 guys that like we really would love to get in this group of 50. That
Loudermilk's on there. You know what I'm saying? You come out of these things and look, this is another need draft. Let's face it, right? I mean, other than the Loudermilk.
Yeah, again, they're always going to draft the positions that they need to upgrade to. It's not literally strictly just best player available. It's always where, talent and need intersect at its highest point. It becomes less of an issue the later you go into the draft and you just focus on talent and guys that can help you. But, of course, they're drafting edge rushers in the 6th round. They need that. They needed a versatile DB in Norwood, and they probably needed a punter as well. So need is always going to be reflected in really the draft class, not only in Pittsburgh, but most teams' draft classes.
All right, I know you're like me. We were like 2 kids that just got Christmas presents but had to go to a 2-hour Sunday Catholic Mass before we get to play with them.
The adult equivalent of the timeshare meeting before.
Yeah.
Just 2 more hours.
All right, you got anything else to add here? The people probably about tired. Hopefully they're not tired of us. But anyway, anything else to add to wrap this one up?
I'm just a little tired in general. I love the draft process. It's fantastic, but man, it is a marathon. And so I have not been exercising or eating well. I just ordered food all day yesterday. So I'm trying to get back to a normal life here.
Yeah. Today's day, kind of we try to unwind a little bit and try to jump into the tape and all like that. But
is that how we unwind? By getting back into grinding?
Oh, look, I you know me, I thrive. I love getting into tape, man. I mean, if I could just sit around and do nothing but that all day and type my observations on Twitter, that's it.
I mean, that's basically what we do now. So,
I mean, I would. I would do it I'd let all of the rest of you handle that stuff, and that's all I would do. I'd love getting into tape here, and that's what I plan to do here for the next definitely 48 hours, is especially some Texas A&M tape here.
Who are you watching first there? Johnson, Moore?
I gotta mop up the Quincy Roche stuff and see if I can find some of those sacks there, but I think I'm gonna continue watching some more on Kendrick Green.
Mm-hmm.
I got a good idea who Pat Freiermuth is. I don't think I need to spend any more time there. Same with Najee Harris. But start getting into kind of the middle round picks first. Talking about Buddy Johnson and Dan Moore. The good thing is I'll be able to kill two birds with one stone. We're watching some games there. A little bit more Kendrick Green there, and that's probably the bulk of, and like I said, the Roche sacks. What about you?
Yeah, I started last night on Loudermilk and Johnson. I like to kind of do these guys one or two at a time, so I'll probably do that, and then maybe look at someone like Norwood because he's a guy I don't know a ton about. But yeah, we'll cover all these guys here and be back. I don't know if we're going to do a show tomorrow. Or
let's probably do Tuesday, probably.
Okay. That works.
And kind of give us some time to jump through the tape there. So in the meantime, we hope you have enjoyed all of our draft coverage and all like that. The guys and girls did a fantastic job. Kudos to them. Certainly made our job easier as well too. So reach out to those people on Twitter if you have a favorite or all of them or whatever, and thank them for their work, if you will. And let's see. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, if you thought we did a great job, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upright navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button upright navigational bar. For $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. It's very, very popular as well. Alex, I appreciate your time. You've been absolutely awesome as usual through this and nobody other. I'd rather have worked through the pre-draft process on this as well too. So thank you for all the hard work that you've done as well. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.